The Committee on Homeland Security, Subcommittee on Counterterrorism and Intelligence will come to order.
The medical response and rescue response was superb at the Boston Marathon, but it is extremely important to recognize how atypical that situation was. I don't know the number of medical volunteers in Boston, but there were many, many available literally within seconds of the time of the blast. There would have been many more lives lost simply through the loss of those legs that were blasted away, or arms in some cases, with nearby medically trained people, EMS people, physicians, nurses. The bleeding was staunched. Beyond that, as you well know, Congressman Keating, some of the most outstanding medical institutions in the world were literally 1 or 1.5 miles away.
Now, we're all familiar with castor oil, and ricin, among other byproducts of the production of castor oil, is readily available. But you still have to purify it from that. Person has to be very willful, dedicated, and have a little bit of brain power in order to create a deadly mix.
Dr. Leonard Cole is an expert in bioterrorism and has written the book, The Anthrax Letters, which covers another bioterrorism scare we had in the wake of 9/11.
So if I put a bunch of castor beans on the table, there would be ricin on the table. The question is how pure, how refined, and in what constituency the powder was. Was it light and fluffy so that it would easily float into the air and possibly be inhaled?
Is there a way to protect yourself? I mean, if you see you hold your mail up and look for powder, or what?
Well, the standard is this. If you have a powder or any ingredient in an envelope or a letter that you suspect is dangerous, and especially if it's in a light, fluffy form, do not wave it around, put it down, get yourself cleaned and washed off so that there's no residue on your skin. And of course, you would call both law enforcement and medical authorities to make sure that you personally are all right.
Is there a feeling of complacency, do you think, since 9/11?
Well, yes. You know, I did some looking at polls and survey research that go back to the 9/11 period in 2001. And immediately after those attacks, some 85% of the American population were leaning to thinking that there would be a subsequent attack before long. And that figure has fallen to about 38%, that there has been some complacency, and I think we have a little more grip on reality now.
And what are the symptoms if you've been exposed to ricin?
You begin to get symptoms, unpleasant for sure, dizziness, nausea, a tightness, you're seeing it on the screen, fatigue, and actually after a while, if it gets more severe, you have trouble with your coordination and neurological capabilities, and ultimately death.
Anthrax has been the bioterror weapon of choice with a proven record of causing death. Ricin is much less common. Bioterror expert Leonard Cole says the choice of ricin could be telling.
The effect is terrorism in its purest form without necessarily killing people, but scaring the heck out of them, terrorizing them. It sounds like an amateur job. However, there is a component when you're talking about terrorism. You really don't necessarily look at casualty counts.
Right.
You look at the effect that it has on the population, on the economy, on individuals, on scariness. The whole mix goes into this.
Maybe fear isn't, maybe it's not the right time for it.
Well, I know what you're saying. There are also a lot of hoax letters that go out that we don't know about.
I know.
They don't have anything more than flour or salt, but they may have a threat letter that accompanies them, and they deserve testing. When you go a notch higher and say, well, yes, there really is a potential toxin in there, then I'm not sure that it needs constant publicity, but it is something to be concerned about.